What's up, brothers? Hope everyone's doing well out there. I'm going to come out here this evening to shoot the shit with you guys on a Sunday and deliver another video for all the single people. Now look, I understand a lot of people out there, they get frustrated when we talk about issues like loneliness or people being single, and they receive it as if it's like doomer content, as if it's negative stuff. But it's really not. You know, being single is a relationship choice, just like being married, just like hooking up with random people at a nightclub and getting somebody pregnant, just like getting divorced. These are all relationship choices. You know, and nowadays it's kind of split down the middle. You know, there's all sorts of people that are into all sorts of different things. And some people just want to stay single. And I got to tell you, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Although I think good people should go out there and start families and be fruitful and multiply. At the same time, you know, maybe in the time being, that's just not what you want to do. And this holds true for men and women. You know, I'll tell you this. When I was young, we'll just say 18, 19 years old, still running around with the guys that I grew up with, most of them were jocks, you know, party guys, whatever, like those type of dudes. And, you know, we would all cycle through girlfriends. We liked to party. We liked to have a good time. You know, we loved the ladies. And, you know, some of my friends were real alpha dogs, right? They'd hook up with all kinds of women, have contests to see who can hook up with the most women in July or August or whatever. But even the most alpha guys out there, you know, eventually they'd meet a woman they really liked. And, you know, you'd reach out. You'd say, hey, bro, let's or change your clothes, put your shoes on. We're about to go shoot some hoops. And he kind of has this look like the soul's been sucked out of him. And he's like, I can't. I'm like, why not? Me and my girlfriend are going to see a movie. Okay, like, what about later? We're going out for a drink. I can't. Gosh, you know, I'm in a relationship now. I can't be doing stuff like that. You know, and you'd kind of see the most alpha guys turn into what the manosphere would refer to as betas. Because ultimately that's what a relationship does to a man. If a man wants to have a healthy, successful relationship, he kind of has to give up that alpha card. You know, you got to become a beta. Sad to say, but it's true. And a lot of men and women, by the way, nowadays a lot of women too, you know, they don't want to be tied down. They don't want to be suppressed or restrained, concealed. You know, they want to have the freedom. They don't want to be held back. And they want to be out there living their lives. And that's the thing about a relationship. It's a major sacrifice. You get married, it's even more of a sacrifice. You start a family, game over. You're a new man and you live for your kids now. It's no longer about you. And like I said, I think all good people out there should one day evolve into that. That's great. You know, we want more of that. But especially if you're a dude in his 20s or 30s, or if you're a divorced guy, anywhere 30 plus, 40 plus, you know, divorced, even if you went through a bad divorce and you're paying child support, there is a silver lining here, right? There is something about being single again that's charming and appealing. You know, you get that back. You get that edge back. There's a certain edge that a man loses when he's in a relationship. You know, that instinct that certain people have. You know, like a Tom Brady or a Michael Jordan, or even a business guy like a Ray Kroc, the dude that put the McDonald's brothers out of business, or a Steve Jobs or somebody like that. Even a gamer nerd that's winning the video games and talking trash. You know, it's that killer instinct. You know, you're just a man being single and being determined to win, and you're just living an alpha lifestyle that you actually enjoy. You have a certain amount of, I would say, a desire to succeed that bypasses empathy. You don't care what happens along the way. You just want to succeed and win. And when you get into a relationship, that edge kind of goes away. Well, let's be honest. It does. And I know for me personally, a relationship to me, look, I don't deal with narcissists. I don't deal with manipulative women. Modern women are delusional and cheating and hooking up with all these guys. I don't see that. I don't deal with that in my personal life. For me, a relationship is just smothering. Women want intimacy all the time. They always want to be on top of you, kissing you, holding you. And when a woman is both physically and emotionally attracted to you, there is something about her. Like when you have a girlfriend and she's physically and emotionally attracted to you, and she's going through a time period when, she's having her moment where her body, her biology is very turned on. You got a combination of all three. It's almost like, this sounds kind of weird, but it's like she exudes certain pheromones. I know that sounds like bro science, so I'm not going to go too far in depth about that. But I find it similar to walking past a lilac bush. A lilac bush is a big, fluffy bush about as tall as you are, several feet wide. When you walk past it, it has not a super strong fragrance, but a very specific, a very distinctive fragrance. And when you inhale it, you get like a euphoric feeling, a calming feeling, kind of like smoking something. You inhale the flower. And when you have a woman that's physically and emotionally attracted to you, you'll be walking past her in the living room, and it's kind of like walking past that lilac bush. It's like she's exuding a certain energy that kind of takes you over. Next thing you know, she's on top of you and you're kissing each other and you're getting it on. And that may sound like it's all fun and games to some guys. It may sound like a very enjoyable session. And from time to time it can be. But when that's what your life has become, and you're no longer doing the things that made you who you were, that made you a man, really drains a lot of the energy and the motivation out of you. And that's how you become that beta. Now, that's just my perspective on that. I understand a lot of other guys have a different perspective. They've tried relationships, and they get into one, and it ends up being a toxic relationship. And the thing about this is, since we're just talking about the subject generally, the saying that cops and gangsters have, they say it doesn't matter if you're a cop or a gangster when you're looking down a barrel. Right? You're not a good guy or a bad guy anymore when you're looking down the barrel. You don't know which one's which. You're both human, you're both mortal, and you're arch enemies. Well, a toxic relationship is kind of the same. You don't know if you're the toxic one or they're the toxic one. Because a manipulator has a very special skill at making you think it's your fault and convincing themselves that it's not their fault. So they not only convince themselves it's not their fault, they convince you it's your fault. Disillusionment, total confusion. A lot of guys are trapped in these relationships. A lot of women are trapped in relationships like that. And that's what they perceive love as. Just a toxic game of high intensity, up tempo, always in a lot of stress and turmoil. So eventually they go through a bad breakup and they decide, I don't ever want to do that again, I'm just going to stay single. Now here comes the advice. I know when we get to the advice part, a lot of people say advice is blue pill. What you've said so far might have been red pilled, and it might have been relatable or not so relatable. But the advice, here's what I'll tell you. You know, if you enjoy being single, you have a massive advantage because you have the power of independence. And truth be told, other than your looks, because your looks will attract, obviously, but the only other ways of attracting the opposite sex are number one, pre-selection, or number two, independence. Now, the net value of pre-selection and the net value of independence are the exact same, which is that you're not desperate, you're not needy, you have everything you could possibly need, right? So when you meet the opposite sex, you have that perfect balance. You're perceived as confident, like you don't need them. And as they say, you know, when you want them, they don't want you back. And when they want you, you don't want them back. So when you're perceived as somebody that doesn't need another person, you know, it's a massive advantage. But the problem with pre-selection, a lot of guys get this wrong, but the problem with pre-selection is it requires codependency to maintain itself. You have to be part of the club. You have to have friends. You have to have the cool dudes around you. You have to have hot chicks around you all the time and Ferraris and nice shit. You're totally codependent. And what happens is you meet people and you realize that those people are only with you because of the stuff you have around you. But when you're independent, you exude that same confidence, that same level of independence. And women in particular. And men are attracted to independent women because they're perceived as wholesome, not slutty. Women are attracted to independent men because they exude a certain confidence that most women don't have. And they can pull that confidence from you. Now, that's the advantage that you have if you're somebody that enjoys being single. You're a lot better off being an independent person and then eventually meeting someone that's so good that they change your mind and make you want to get into a relationship than you are to be so codependent that you settle for somebody that ends up changing your mind and making you want to stay single for the rest of your life. Think about it, you know, but it happens. You know, and that's the thing. The peace, the tranquility of being able to do whatever you want in this modern world. You know, I'm not saying promiscuity is a good thing. Promiscuity is a good thing. Sometimes I slur my words. I don't know why. But I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it is baked into the cake of the modern world. Right? So when you're single, it's always out there. You know, you can always find what you're looking for. On the dating apps, the nightclubs. Some guys, they'll even pay to play. I don't recommend it, but some will. You know, hell, a lot of celebrities do, which blows my mind. You know, I'll see a bunch of celebrities, or I'll see some random plastic-looking chick with a fake nose, fake tits, lip injections, totally fake looking. And she'll be spilling the tea on like 50 different celebrities, all of them hooked up with her. And I'm looking at the lady just thinking, this is a soulless creature. I don't even find her physically attractive, not remotely. She's like a 4 out of 10, and she looks fake. Extremely unattractive. And all of these guys are paying tens of thousands of dollars to screw her. And she'll have this, I don't know, this thing about herself, this ego, where she thinks, you know, just because she gave a celebrity a rim job, that she's like a high status human being. Like, it ain't gonna last. You know, what's gonna happen when she's 40 and nobody's paying for it anymore? She never really learned how to manage that money because, you know, a rim job isn't a career. Oh, man. We just went off on a tangent there that I was not expecting to go off on. That's why I don't watch a lot of content. It fills my mind with smut. Filth. I'm not into it. A lot of people want me to react to more videos about all the craziness that's going on. Not my thing. I stay in my own ecosystem. You know, genuine desire or nothing. Nice relationship with a girl that lives a mile away. All the freedom I want. Peace. No stress. And I'll tell you what, in my relationship, there probably will come a time where we say either we're going to have to switch this up a bit, maybe move in together, maybe even have a baby, or this probably isn't going to work. And, you know, I'll cross that bridge when I get there. But it's going to have to be a amicable deal. However we work this out, it's going to have to be done properly. You know, but I suppose that's kind of a different subject. But there's a lot of appeal to being single. It's a stress-free lifestyle. And at the end of the day, you know, if you're still watching this video and you're a single guy, we have this tendency to beat ourselves up. You know, if we feel like we're not reaching the milestones that we're supposed to reach. Might be a relationship, might be having kids, might be graduating college, might be your career or a certain level of money you thought you had to have saved up. Look, throughout human history, we didn't have these problems, right? People weren't saving money. People weren't like stressed out about maintaining cool things. Maintaining your iPhone and your Dodge Charger and your, you know, nice clothes and your cool apartment or house. You know, you're stressed out about maintaining luxury. You know, throughout human history, luxury wasn't available to the modern person, not the modern person, the average person. But it is available to the modern person, the modern average person. So you shouldn't beat yourself up. I mean, you got to relax. Even if you're buried in debt, you don't know how you're going to pay your bills. One way or another, even if it means you like lose your car, it's going to work itself out. You know, eventually it'll turn around a little bit. It always does. And, you know, whenever you establish that independence and you're comfortable being independent, comfortable being by yourself, and you enjoy being by yourself, you're going to exude a more attractive energy. And, you know, just when you don't expect it, along comes a lady that's in the same position as you. Maybe you hit it off. Hell, maybe you want to be a bachelor for the rest of your life. You know the bodybuilder Mike O'Hearn? Mike O'Hearn. The ultimate Giga Chad. One of the world's most elite Giga Chads. He's in like his 50s now, I think. Probably 50, maybe a little above that. 6'4", absolute Greek god, jacked. puts models to shame. And, you know, the dude just stayed single up until he turned around like 42, 43, 44. Never really had relationships. And then he just got married and had a kid. That's the life he lives. So, you know, some people want to stay single. They're motivated by other things. They're focused on other aspects of their lives. And then something happens, and one day they make the change. But you shouldn't force it if you don't want it. You should wait until you do want it. That's when you'll be more passionate about accomplishing it. All right, guys. I'm starting to feel a little bit of a drizzle. I wanted to continue, but guess we're going to have to pick up where we left off in the next video. Or maybe we'll deliver something a little more dating advice, more motivational and fast-paced in the next video. But nonetheless, I hope this video was somewhat informative. And that's about it for tonight, guys. Until next time, see ya.